The alien marketplace was alive with noise and chaos. Strange lights flickered across the domed ceiling, casting shadows on hundreds of curious eyes. Creatures of every shape and size crowded the dark hall, their claws clicking, tentacles twitching, and eyes glowing in anticipation. This was no ordinary market. This was the place where fortunes were made and lives were sold. In the center of the hall, chained and trembling, stood a young alien girl. Her skin shimmered faintly under the neon lights, and her wide, fearful eyes darted around the room. She had been dragged here from her home planet, ripped from everything she knew, and now she was the star of the auction. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. Every whisper from the crowd sounded like a threat. Every movement of the auctioneer made her flinch. The auctioneer, a tall, thin alien with a crooked, beak-like mouth, raised his arms. "Behold, the finest specimen from the outer colonies." His voice boomed through the hall, echoing off the walls. "Strong, young, and obedient. Who will pay the price for this beauty?" The girl's stomach twisted in fear. She had heard stories from other slaves. Humans, they said, were cruel. They tortured their captives, used them for their own amusement, and left them broken. She had seen a few humans before visiting the market, and their cold eyes had terrified her. She prayed silently that no human would buy her. The crowd murmured, shouting numbers and raising strange glowing devices that displayed their bids. Every bid felt like another step closer to doom. She tried to shrink back, but the chains bit into her wrists. Her mind raced. How would she survive if she ended up in the hands of a human? She didn't know if she could. Then the murmur changed. A middle-aged human stepped forward. He was not young, not flashy, not like the others who had come to the auction to show off wealth. He moved calmly, quietly, almost as if he did not belong there at all. He raised his hand and the auctioneer's eyes lit up. "And the next bid goes to the human," the auctioneer croaked, his voice filled with excitement. The crowd gasped. Whispers spread like wildfire. "He will buy her for what? He looks too old to handle her. Or maybe he's cruel like the rest." The alien girl's heart froze. She wanted to scream, to run, but the chains held her tight. She could see the human counting some kind of glowing coins, his face expressionless. Every second stretched into eternity. The auctioneer slammed the gavel down. Sold, tears welled up in the girl's eyes. She braced herself for the pain, for screams, for the cruel treatment she had imagined. She expected him to drag her away to a cage, to beat her, to make her life miserable. She looked up at him, trembling. But then something strange happened. The human walked up to her slowly, carefully. He did not touch her roughly. He did not grab her chains. Instead, he knelt down and said something in a soft, gentle voice she could barely understand. He lifted the chains from her wrists one by one. The girl froze. The hall went silent. Every alien in the room stared in disbelief. No one had ever seen a human act like this. The chains clinked to the floor. She rubbed her wrists, still unable to believe her eyes. "Come," he said, extending a hand. His eyes were calm, kind, and full of something she had never felt before. Trust. For the first time in her life, the girl felt hope. She had thought humans were monsters, that her life would end in fear and pain. But this human was different. The crowd watched in shock as she took his hand, stepping out of the auction stage. Whispers filled the hall again, but this time they were questions. Questions that had no answers yet. As they walked away into the shadows of the alien city, the girl could not stop staring at him. Who was he? Why was he helping her? And most importantly, could she really trust him? Every step away from the hall was a step away from fear, and into a future she could not yet imagine. The streets outside the auction hall were dark, winding, and dangerous. Neon signs flickered overhead, casting strange shadows that danced across the alien buildings. The marketplace noise faded behind them, replaced by the distant hum of hovering vehicles and the occasional growl of predators prowling the alleys. The alien girl clutched the human's hand tightly. Her heart still raced from the shock of what had just happened. Humans, she had believed, were cruel. Every story she had heard, every warning she had been given, screamed at her that she should run, but she couldn't. This human, he had saved her. The chains were gone, and yet a new kind of fear gripped her. What dangers lay ahead now? Could she trust him completely? He moved silently, his boots barely making a sound on the cracked stone streets. His calm presence was unsettling but also strangely comforting. Every so often he glanced over his shoulder, checking their path without a word. The girl tried to memorize the streets, noting every corner, every shadow, but it felt like the city itself was alive, waiting to trap them. Suddenly, a loud screech echoed through the alley. The girl froze, pulling back instinctively. A gang of alien hunters emerged from the shadows, their glowing eyes fixed on them. They had noticed the human paying for her at the auction. No one just bought a slave and walked away. That was unacceptable in their eyes. "Run," the human whispered, his voice calm but firm. They darted into a narrow alley, weaving between crates and abandoned vehicles. The hunters were fast, their limbs bending in ways that made the girl's stomach churn. One of them lunged, claws outstretched, but the human sidestepped and grabbed a metal rod from the ground. With a swift, precise strike, he sent the attacker sprawling. The girl's eyes widened. Humans, she had thought, were weak. But this one, he was strong, fast, and clever. She wanted to speak, to ask how he could fight like that, but there was no time. They ran deeper into the city, twisting through alleys that seemed to stretch endlessly. Finally, they reached a rusted door hidden behind stacks of crates. The human pressed a button on a small device and the door clicked open. "Inside," he said, stepping back to let her go first. The girl hesitated, her mind racing. Seriously, but for how long? She entered the small, dimly lit room. It smelled of metal and dust, but it was warm and quiet. For the first time, she could sit without trembling. The human closed the door behind them, sealing out the city and its dangers. She sank to the floor, hugging her knees. Why are you helping me?" she whispered, her voice shaking. The human sat opposite her, resting his arms on his knees. "Because no one deserves to be treated the way you were," he said simply. His words were calm, but there was a strength in them that made her heart ache. Not aliens, not humans, not anyone. The girl studied him, searching for signs of deception. She had learned to read faces to detect lies, but she saw none here. Only quiet determination and kindness. It confused her. Could humans really be this way? Could one human change everything she had believed about their kind? A soft beep echoed from a device on the wall. She jumped. The human's eyes narrowed. "They're tracking you," he said, almost to himself. "We have to be careful." Her stomach dropped. Even here, in this hidden safe house, danger was close. But something inside her shifted. Fear was still there, but so was a tiny spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could survive this with him. As night fell outside, the city lights painting the walls with faint blue and red glows, the girl realized something she hadn't felt in a long time. Trust. Not complete trust, not yet, but enough to follow him, to listen and to try. The human stood, moving to a small table. He laid out a rough map of the city and the paths they could take. "Tomorrow we move further," he said. "Tonight we rest." The girl nodded, exhausted but alert. She knew this was only the beginning. Hunters still prowled the streets, dangers lurked around every corner, and she had no idea what the future held. But for the first time, she felt that she wasn't alone, and maybe, just maybe, she had found someone who would fight to keep her alive, not for profit, not for power, but because he believed she deserved it. As the night deepened, shadows stretching across the room, the girl stared at the human, her mind filled with questions. Could a human truly be so different? Could she trust him completely? And most importantly, would they survive the hunt that had only just begun? The safe house was quiet, but it did not feel safe. Shadows crept along the walls, thrown by the flickering lights of broken lamps. The alien girl sat on a dusty crate, hugging her knees, while the human moved slowly around the room, checking the locks and peering out small, grimy windows. She watched him carefully, unsure what to say. Her mind still raced from the escape, from the hunters, from everything she had experienced in her short life. For the first time, she felt a strange mix of fear and curiosity. Humans, maybe not all humans, were cruel, but could she truly trust this one? The human turned to her and spoke softly, almost like he didn't want to break the fragile silence. "You're safe for now," he said. "No one can reach you here tonight." The girl looked up at him, her wide eyes suspicious. Why are you helping me? You don't even know me. Humans buy aliens to control them, to hurt them, to..." She stopped herself, afraid to speak the words aloud. "I know," he interrupted gently. "I've heard the stories. But not all humans are like that. Some of us, we fight for what is right." His voice was calm, almost tired, but there was a quiet strength in it. The girl stared at him, trying to understand. Humans were supposed to be cruel, like she had been taught. And yet here was one human standing quietly, not threatening her, not demanding anything. He was different. She shifted, trying to keep her anger and fear hidden. You could just leave, she said. No one would stop you. But you didn't. He shrugged slightly, picking up a small map of the alien city. Because someone has to help. And because you deserve better. For a moment, the girl's mind froze. Deserve better? Could she deserve better? Her life had been a series of horrors, and kindness felt strange and almost impossible to believe. Yet something in the way he spoke made her want to believe it. The room fell quiet again. Outside, distant sounds of the city, hovercrafts, alien chatter, the occasional growl of predators, reminded them both that danger was never far. She glanced at him, noticing small details she hadn't before. The faint scars on his hands, the careful way he moved, the intensity in his eyes. He had fought the hunters with skill, yes, but he also moved with patience, with caution, and with thought. You don't just fight, she said softly. You think, you plan, you care. He looked at her, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his lips. I have to, otherwise you wouldn't survive and I wouldn't either. The girl let out a small laugh, shaky and nervous. She hadn't laughed in a long time. I've never met anyone like you. He nodded, his gaze steady. Then let's make sure you do. Step by step. Suddenly a soft beep sounded from the wall. The girl jumped. The human's eyes narrowed. They're still tracking you, he said quietly, checking a small device. We have to move soon. They'll find you if we stay here too long. Her stomach clenched. She had thought she was safe. Thought the escape was enough, but the reality hit her again. Danger was still close. Still real. She swallowed hard. I want to trust you, she whispered. But I'm scared. I don't know if I can. He knelt in front of her, meeting her gaze directly. You don't have to trust me completely yet. Just enough to follow me. That's all that matters right now. Everything else will come with time. For the first time, the alien girl felt a flicker of calm inside her chest. Not full trust, not complete safety, but a tiny spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could survive this with him. The night stretched on, quiet and tense. Shadows shifted in the corners of the room. Outside, the city hummed with danger, but inside, a fragile connection was forming. The alien girl realized something profound. She had never been offered kindness without expectation. And the human, he was offering it freely. It confused her. It frightened her, and yet, it made her feel alive. She looked at him, her mind filled with questions, fears, and a new, tentative hope. Maybe, in a galaxy full of cruelty and greed, there was still room for trust, and maybe, just maybe, she had found someone who could teach her how to survive and maybe even how to live. The safe house was abandoned now, empty except for the faint hum of old machinery. The alien girl followed the human as he led her through a narrow tunnel that opened onto a hidden path. Beyond the tunnel, the alien city gave way to wild, untamed terrain. Strange plants with glowing leaves swayed in the wind, and enormous fungi jutted from the ground like natural towers. This place, it's alive, the girl whispered, awe and fear mixing in her voice. Every shadow seemed to move. Every rustle of leaves sounded like footsteps. She clutched the human's arm instinctively. He smiled faintly. It's dangerous, but it's the safest way out of the city. The jungle around them was unlike anything she had ever seen. Giant insects with translucent wings hovered above, their eyes reflecting the dim sunlight. Predators with spiked backs and glowing teeth slinked between the plants. The girl's stomach churned. She wanted to run back to the safe house, back to the illusion of safety. But the human's steady presence calmed her. Why do you know all this? She asked, her voice trembling. He glanced at her. I've traveled a lot, seen a lot. You learn quickly when survival is the only option. They moved carefully, step by step. The human seemed to anticipate every danger, guiding her around poisonous plants, hidden pits, and quicksand like mud. He even showed her how to move silently, how to breathe lightly, how to watch for predators before they noticed them. For the first time, the alien girl felt like she might survive on her own. Not just survive, but fight, think, and maybe even win. As they walked, he told her stories of the galaxy, of humans who had fought against cruelty, of aliens who had helped others despite fear, of planets where hope still existed. The girl listened, eyes wide, realizing that the world was bigger than she had imagined. Maybe humans weren't all monsters. Maybe some were heroes. Suddenly a low growl echoed from the bushes. Both froze. A massive predator, its body covered in scales that glimmered like oil on water, emerged from the foliage. Its eyes were bright red, its jaws dripping with saliva. The girl's heart raced. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run. But the human stepped forward, calm and confident. "Stay behind me," he instructed. The predator lunged faster than her mind could process. The human dodged gracefully, grabbing a nearby stick and using it to trip the creature. The girl gasped. She had thought humans were fragile, weak, but this one, he was strong, fast, and clever. When the predator finally fled, the girl collapsed to the ground, shaking. The human knelt beside her. "You did well," he said, surprising her. "You stayed calm, you listened, and you didn't freeze. That's important." She looked up at him, her chest still heaving. I almost died," she whispered. "Yes," he said simply. "But you didn't. And you won't. Not if you trust yourself and listen." The alien girl stared at him, realizing that she had begun to trust him. Not completely, not blindly, but enough to follow him through the wilds, enough to believe that he wanted her alive. That thought was strange and new, like a fragile seed in her chest. They continued through the alien jungle, the path twisting and turning, leading them deeper into unknown territory. Strange glowing flowers lit their way and alien sounds filled the air, some beautiful, some frightening. She noticed how the human never rushed, never panicked, always aware of their surroundings. At one point they came to a river with dark, rushing water. The current looked strong, dangerous. "We have to cross," he said, examining it. The girl froze. Her legs felt weak. "I can't swim," she admitted. He looked at her calmly. "You'll have to try. I'll hold you." She hesitated, fear gnawing at her. But with his hand extended, steady and reassuring, she finally took it. Together they stepped into the water, the current threatening to pull them under. But he guided her, shielded her, and finally got them safely to the other side. As she stood dripping wet, shivering, she realized something important. Danger was real. Fear was real. But so was hope. And with him she could face the galaxy and survive. The alien jungle had secrets, and so did the human. But together, they were learning how to survive, how to fight, and maybe, just maybe, how to trust again. The alien girl and the human had finally found a quiet place to rest. A small, abandoned settlement hidden deep within the jungle. Rusted buildings and broken walls offered cover, but the air smelled damp and old. Despite the eerie calm, the girl felt a sense of relief. For the first time in days, she could sit without constant fear of hunters or predators. The human had set up a small camp near a crumbling wall. He moved quietly, arranging supplies while she watched him with cautious eyes. "We should stay here for a while," he said. "They'll be looking for us, but this place is off most patrol routes. We can plan our next move." The girl nodded, though unease gnawed at her. Even with his words, she couldn't shake the feeling that danger was still close. It wasn't long before a figure emerged from the shadows, a small, wiry alien with bright, shifting eyes. He carried a satchel filled with supplies and spoke quickly, offering water, food, and a small device that could shield them from tracking signals. "Greetings," he said with a polite bow. "I am a trader. I know you are being hunted. I can help." The human's eyes narrowed. "Why help us?" he asked calmly. The trader laughed softly. "I have my reasons. Let's just say I have nothing against you and everything against your pursuers." The alien girl looked at the human, seeking guidance. He studied the trader silently, his hand never leaving his side, where she noticed a faint glint of metal. A weapon, maybe. "We'll accept help," he finally said. "But we watch carefully." For the next few hours, the girl watched the trader in fascination and suspicion. He seemed kind, quick to smile, eager to assist. He even offered small jokes, which made her laugh, a short, nervous sound, but a sound she hadn't made in a long time. "I think we can trust him," she whispered cautiously to the human. He shook his head slightly. "Be careful. Not everyone who smiles is a friend." Her stomach twisted at his words, but she forced herself to keep quiet. Perhaps he was just being cautious, overprotective. Maybe she could relax a little. As night fell, the trader led them to a hidden cellar, claiming it was safer. The girl followed, her trust growing slowly, reluctantly. She noticed that he seemed to know the area well, that he moved confidently, and she felt a strange sense of security. Then, just as she was starting to believe him, The trap snapped. A bright alarm flashed across the cellar walls, and several armed aliens poured in from hidden entrances. The girl's eyes widened in shock and betrayal. The trader's kind smile had vanished. "I'm afraid I must return her," he said coldly. "Your human friend will not stop me." The human acted instantly. With calm precision, he drew a small, sleek weapon and fired a quick, disabling shot at one of the attackers. "Run!" he shouted, grabbing the girl's hand. Chaos erupted. The cellar shook with movement as the girl stumbled behind the human. The traitor had led them into a trap, but the human's planning and experience saved them. They darted through narrow tunnels beneath the settlement, avoiding armed patrols and hidden sensors. Breathing heavily, the girl finally stopped for a moment, looking at him with wide eyes. You saved us," she said, her voice trembling. He nodded, not letting go of her hand. "I told you," he said. "Not everyone is who they seem, but if you trust carefully, you survive." She thought of the traitor, of the easy smiles and the sudden betrayal. Fear and anger churned inside her. But she also realized something more important. She had learned to rely on the human, to follow him, to believe in him when it mattered most. As they emerged from the tunnels, the night sky stretched wide above them, stars glimmered faintly through the alien canopy, and the girl felt a strange sense of determination. Danger would always exist, she realized. There would always be those who betrayed, who hunted, who lied. But with him, she could survive. With him, she could fight back. And with every step she took beside him, she felt stronger, braver, and more alive than ever before. The jungle seemed darker, the shadows deeper, but the spark of hope burned brighter. They were not safe yet, not by far, but together they could face whatever lay ahead. Tomorrow they would plan their next move. Tonight they survived betrayal, and in survival, they found trust. The cliffside fortress loomed ahead, a dark silhouette against the crimson sky. Jagged rocks jutted from the ground like giant teeth, and the wind whipped through the alien jungle, carrying the distant cries of unseen creatures. The human and the alien girl crouched behind a large boulder, observing the fortress with wary eyes. "This is it," the human whispered, his voice calm but firm. "The ones who hunted you, the slavers. They're all inside. We end this tonight." The girl's heart pounded. She had never faced such concentrated danger before. The stories she had heard about the fortress were terrifying. No one who entered had ever come out alive. And yet standing beside the human, she felt a spark of courage she hadn't known she had. "How do we get in?" she asked, her voice trembling. He pointed to a narrow path along the cliff's edge. "We move quietly. Watch your step, follow me exactly. One mistake and they'll know we're here." They began their approach, carefully navigating the jagged rocks. Every step was tense, every shadow a possible threat. The fortress's high walls were patrolled by alien guards with glowing weapons, their eyes scanning for intruders. Suddenly, a guard's gaze swept toward them. The human froze, pulling the girl behind a rock. The guard passed, unaware of their presence. The girl exhaled slowly, amazed at his skill. "How do you do that?" she whispered. "Patience and observation," he replied, "and never underestimate your opponent." They reached a hidden entrance on the cliff's side, a small, rusted door almost invisible to the untrained eye. The human picked the lock silently, his movements precise. The girl followed him inside, and they entered the fortress, shadows among shadows. The interior was dark and cold. Hallways twisted like mazes, and the air smelled of oil and alien machinery. The girl's heart thumped loudly, echoing in her ears. Every noise, a dripping pipe, a creaking metal floor, a distant voice, made her flinch. They moved carefully, avoiding patrols and sensors. Occasionally, the human would stop, whispering instructions and guiding her through narrow passages. She followed his lead, feeling a mix of fear and determination. For the first time, she realized she could fight beside him, not just follow. Finally, they reached the inner chamber. The main slaver stood there, a tall alien with dark scales and glowing eyes, flanked by armed guards. "Ah," the slaver hissed, noticing their presence. "The little human thinks he can save her. How amusing." The human stepped forward, calm and unwavering. "You're done," he said simply. "Release her or face the consequences." The slaver laughed, a cruel, echoing sound. "You, alone? Against all of us?" The girl's fear surged, but she noticed the human's confidence. She drew a deep breath and stepped forward, surprising herself. "I'm not afraid of you anymore," she said, her voice strong. The guards turned toward her, astonished. A fight erupted. The human moved with precision, disabling guards quickly without unnecessary force. The girl followed his lead, dodging attacks, using her agility to her advantage. She realized that her fear had transformed into focus, into strength she hadn't known she had. The slaver lunged at her, trying to grab her, but the human intercepted, pushing the alien back. Together they cornered the slaver, whose strength was formidable but no match for their combined skills. The slaver snarled, defeated, and finally collapsed to the floor, restrained by the human's careful strategy. Breathing heavily, the girl looked around. The fortress was silent now, the guards incapacitated. She turned to the human, gratitude and awe in her eyes. "We did it," she whispered. He nodded, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Yes, you survived. You fought. You didn't just escape, you stood and faced them." The girl felt a surge of pride. For the first time in her life, she was free not just in body but in spirit. The human had shown her that courage, strategy, and compassion could exist even in the darkest places of the galaxy. As they exited the fortress, the crimson sky fading into night, the girl realized that she had changed. She was no longer just a frightened alien slave. She was a survivor. And with the human by her side, she could face the galaxy, danger, betrayal, and all. Together, they walked into the dark wilderness beyond the fortress, ready for whatever challenges awaited. The alien girl and the human finally stood on the edge of a vast plain, far from the dark jungle and the fortress that had haunted her nightmares. The air smelled sweet, like distant flowers she had never known, and a gentle wind brushed against her skin. For the first time in years, she felt something unfamiliar. Peace. The human glanced at her, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "We made it," he said. "You're safe now." "Truly safe." She looked at him, eyes wide, still unsure if safety could last. "Safe, really?" she whispered, her voice trembling. She had been hunted, trapped, betrayed, and scared for as long as she could remember. Could this moment, this strange calm, really be real? "Yes," he said firmly. "No one will find you here. You can start over." The girl took a deep breath, letting the wind fill her lungs. She realized just how exhausted she was, physically, mentally, and emotionally. But there was a spark inside her, a tiny flame of hope that refused to be extinguished. She was free. She had survived. And she was alive. They walked toward a small settlement in the distance, one of the few human colonies on this remote planet. Buildings were simple but sturdy, people moving calmly through the streets. Alien and human alike coexisted here peacefully. The girl had never seen such a place. She had never imagined humans could be capable of this: kindness, order, and community. As they approached, children ran past, laughing and chasing small creatures. Merchants sold fruits and fabrics from colorful stalls. Life was ordinary, yet extraordinary to her eyes. She realized that this was what she had been missing all along. Not just freedom, but normalcy. The human led her to a small dwelling near the edge of the settlement. "This will be your home," he said. "For now, at least. You'll learn, you'll grow, and you'll be safe here." The girl nodded slowly, looking around. Everything seemed so new, so full of possibilities. She realized she had choices for the first time in her life. She could learn, explore, and even dream. She could decide who she wanted to be, not just survive. Over the next days, she learned quickly. The human taught her basic survival skills for this planet, how to communicate with humans and other aliens, and even how to defend herself if danger ever returned. She laughed more than she had in years, stumbled over words she didn't know, and slowly began to feel like a part of this strange new world. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, the girl stood outside her small dwelling, watching the stars appear. The human joined her, silently standing beside her. "I never thought I'd see stars like these," she said softly. "Back home, there was only darkness," he nodded. "Some darkness is unavoidable. But you've learned to navigate it. You've grown stronger, braver, and wiser. You survived everything they threw at you." She looked at him, gratitude and admiration in her eyes. "I wouldn't have survived without you," she admitted. You showed me kindness when no one else did. You believed in me when no one else would. You taught me to trust again." He smiled faintly, a hint of pride in his expression. "I just did what anyone should do." "You're strong. You learned quickly. You didn't just survive, you became more than they ever expected you to be." The girl felt a warmth in her chest. For the first time, she believed in herself. She had been a slave, a victim, a hunted alien, but now she was someone else entirely. She was free, capable, and alive. As night settled over the colony, she looked up at the stars again. Somewhere out there, dangers still lurked, and the galaxy held mysteries she had yet to face. But now,